everyone, how are you feeling today? It's arive here, and today I'm coming at you with my Cubic deck update. Now, this is a deck that I think I didn't update to like 9 months, so I felt like, it's about time I'll update it, and I didn't really see a whole lot of Cubic lists that are like on YouTube recently or something like that. Maybe there were like one or two that I didn't notice, and then they updated today or something like that. And like that's one of the things I also kind of want to do mostly is like decks that I have that a lot of people didn't upload. It's not because of like I'm trying to kind of grab views, which is also kind of nice, and also kind of like making the channel bigger is also kind of my goal, because I want a lot of people to kind of like visit this channel, support it, so I can make you more content for you guys. But the idea is like DDD, for example, is a video, is a deck profile that not a whole lot of people run, like, combos or something like that, so I felt like I need to do that. And Cubic is, I think, kind of the same right now, because people kind of figured them out, and because we didn't really receive the OCG support yet, so people just don't really play with them that much. But I just still think, like, this deck is really, really fun. It's a OTK fun deck. And I feel like I need to do an upload of a different style, because the last style I believe I did is kind of fusion style, which was really, really cool at the time, but right now it's kind of like meh-ish. Now I kind of went into the original OTK route because of a particular card from Savage Strike, which I'm pretty sure you already know what card I'm talking about, and if you have that card, it actually helps quite a bit. I don't have it, I'm proxying it with Positive Desires, but we'll get to it when we get to it. So starting things off with the monster count, we run 3 copies of Dark Cubic Lord, Crimson Nova. Crimson Nova is absolutely insanity and bunkers. This guy is a 3,000 attacking monster that burn your opponent and yourself during the end phase for 3,000, which is insane, because it doesn't really matter for you for OTK, unless of course your opponent got you for like 3,000 life as well, with a weird for example, like a Mystic Mine kind of a deck, but whatever. It's also can attack twice if it destroys a monster, which is really, really cool, so it can attack an additional time. And then he pretty much gets to special summon himself when you have 3 Cubic cards with different names in your hand other than himself, and he is not affected by monsters that have 3,000 attack or less. So it's absolutely ridiculous. This card is absolutely ridiculous, and it's just amazing. This card is just an OTK machine by himself. Probably one of the biggest OTK machines for really like a main deck OTK card. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Probably one of the best boss monsters in terms of like trying to be an OTK. Moving on, we run 3 copies of Duja. Duja is your pretty much Foolish Burial of the deck. You only need this guy. Mostly you want to Foolish Burial your Cubic spells and traps. It's not important to Foolish Burial a Cubic monster, because it's not really that important, trust me, it's not really worth it. And it's also kind of like, it's not a hard once per turn, it's only when he's normal or special summon, so it's like, if you normal summon one of these, and then you special summon the other one, and the other one, you get 3 Foolish Burials, which is really, really cool. For your spells and traps, so like Foolish Burial goods effects. And then you also get the ability of, like, if a card is sent to the graveyard while this card is on the field, kind of an idea, is that you can make this guy get 200 attack for each monster with different name in your graveyard until the end of the turn, which could, again, make this guy a little bit bigger for helping you with OTK. Moving on, we're running 3 copies of Vijam the Cubic Seed. He has a weird Cubic counter mechanic. Doesn't really feel important because it's really not important, but the fact that you run 3 of these guys, because some of the cards that are one-offs, which we'll get to them, are really, really important with this guy, is really, really good with them. And you want, like, have an additional name, is probably one of the better names. And also there is Cubic Karma, which is a card that's kind of like boosting your monster depending on the Cubic Seeds in your deck. So he's as a kind of like important effect to help you the OTK, but by himself he's pretty a bad card. He's a weird card that you need to run 3 because it's helping the deck, but it's also a bad card to draw in a way. It's a weird one that you want to run at 3 just because of the name, just because it's really, really good for that regard as well. Moving on for your one-off Cubic monsters, before we'll move on to the honorary Cubic monster, you run 1 copy of Beast Blade Garudia, I believe that's how you pronounce, and 1, what is his name again, Buster Gundil, the Cubic Behemoth. I would, if I would have an additional cubic names like the spells and traps that like in the OCG that we didn't get yet, I would probably cut this guy down. But for the time being, I don't have those, so like, you know, I just need an additional name because of Cubic Lord. These guys do kind of like the same ideas of like this guy get to send 2 cubic monsters you control to the graveyard, get two attacks and get 2,000 attack on the process when you send them to the graveyard, and then if you attack or destroy the monster, he get the ability to send himself to the graveyard and special summon 3 Vijam Cubic Seed, and then you pretty much get to add this guy to your hand. And this guy, if you get to special summon him by sending 3 cubics to your graveyard from your field, you get to he get 3,000 attack, can attack 3 times, and if he destroyed by a battle or by an opponent card effect, you get to special summon 3 cubic monsters and add a cubic card from your deck to your hand. So you special summon 3 cubic monsters from your graveyard, of course. Moving on to the other better engine, the King engine. You run 3 copies of not 3 copies, 1 copy of Garia Gale, the Cubic King, 1 Dragani, and 1 Indiora, I believe that's how you pronounce this guy. These 3 guys kind of, again, same effect. When you summon them, you send 1, 2, and 3. This guy gets 800, 1600, and 2400. They all burn your opponent for 800 points of damage on summon, which is really, really good on time and helping you OTK. And then if this guy attacks, you get to send him to the graveyard, summon 2 cubics, and then get this guy to your hand. This one, the same idea, but summoning 3 cubics and adding this guy to your hand. And this guy has the same protection grave setup effect as this guy. When it's like is destroyed by a battle by your opponent card effect, you get to special summon 3 cubics from the graveyard and add a cubic card from your deck to your hand. Which is pretty simple about the cubic monsters. If I would ever leave cubic, like, you know, that are not like the 3 main ones, I would leave those. This one, like I said, when we're getting the OCG cards, I will cut him down and add the others. And that's how that works. Moving on to the honorary cubic monster, I run 3 copies of Summoner Monk, which in my opinion should be called Cubic Summoner Monk, because he's really just a cubic monster in my opinion, how much important he is. You send a spell which you already want in the graveyard, and because you have so many multiple spells, sometimes you open up with 2 copies that can only be activated once per turn anyway, so we can send the other copies to special summon your Duja from the deck, and then you kind of like get to set up your combo and kind of like have the ability to kind of like, you know, OTK a little bit more easily. So it's kind of like an additional 3 copies of Duja. Moving for the last card of the monsters, I run 3 copies of Pranktotops. Pranktotops, in my opinion, is just really, really good for a deck like this. You could run Effect Veiler, Ash Blossoms, or whatever. I just feel like Pranktotops is really, really good. 2600 beater. It's got the ability to destroy a card in the middle of stuff if your opponent kind of like getting rid of it, but you can trade it for a quick effect. And it's just a free special summon, which is really, really good. So 3 copies of Pranktotops, in my opinion, is just the best option. If you want to run something else, you're more than welcome to. And that's it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. Spells, you start off with 3 copies of Karma. Karma continuous effect doesn't really that matter, except from the fact that like if you really want to use that, you can make one of your cubic monsters bigger, up to 2400 attack, depending on the V-Jumps that you have in your deck, because you send V-Jumps to your graveyard, which is really good as well, kind of like setting up your behemoth, kings, emperors, and all that stuff, like the one-offs. But mostly you care about the effect in the grave that you banish it, which is again not a hard once per turn, to add a cubic monster, cubic card from your cubic monster. Sorry, not card. Cubic monster. I was right the first time. Cubic monster from your deck to your hand. Then you run 3 copies of the other Cubic Amazing card, and you run 3 copies of Cubic Wave. Secondary effect, again, doesn't really matter, because putting Cubic counters doesn't really matter, so you don't really care about the banishment effect. You care about the effect of targeting a Cubic monster and the opponent monster. You kind of like activate a Dark Rebellion dragon kind of effect. You have his monster to have his monster attack, and then double your monster attack, which is really, really good for OTKs as well. And then 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. I don't think I need to explain Foolish Burial Goods. You have 2 particular targets that you want to send to the graveyard, which is Karma and Unification, and this just get you there. And like I said, multiple copies is not a problem, because you can just send them to the graveyard with a Summoner Monk if you open up in your hand with like 2 copies, and just still get the benefit. And then 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance. I don't feel like you want to run 3 Extravagance. Of course, I'm proxying with the Desires because I don't have the money. But like, if you want to run 3 Extravagance, you can run like, you can cut one of the Prankster Tops if you feel to. But I feel like 2 Extravagance is more than enough because you don't really need that card, but it's like kind of like the other button to kind of like to press on if you need the additional more resources to kind of like making 3 cards in your hand and you don't open up with the correct resources. So that's really good for that regard as well. Like I said, this is supposed to be Extravagance. Moving on to your other important spell, Free Call, Piece of Cold by your grave. Really good to stop your opponent's hand traps. I don't think I need to explain that. 2 copies of Twin Twisters to deal with your opponent's back row. And then 1 copy of Monster Reborn because you can just revive an additional Duja to get another Foolish Burial effect or something like that and get another search. Or just whatever, you can revive whatever. I think like it's a really important card for OTKs, essentially. And then lastly, you run 3 copies of the Trap and Unification of the Cubic Lords. You don't really care about its fusion effect, even though I'm running in the extra just for fun one of the copy of the Big Fusion. But you care about his effect in the graveyard when you banish it, which is again another hard once per turn, to special summon a cubic monster from your deck. Or hand, which is not really important in the hand. You mostly care about the deck, unless of course you have another Duja in your hand, which you just want to special summon. But sometimes those happens, but I'm hoping it will not happen to you that much. And that's pretty much does it for the main deck. Now I'll move on to the extra deck. So extra deck is really not that important. I run some utility cards here, so we'll start off with the Fusion. I run 1 copy of this guy. Just for funsies, it's not really that important. You kind of like cannot even summon this guy. Just here for fun. You can summon him when you're in Unification, but it almost never happens. 1 copy of Gustav Max, because sometimes you can do that. 1 copy of Tornado Dragon, because sometimes Tornado Dragon, Castell, Excited Knight, and Gaga Cowboy. Excited Knight is just here for like, you know, if you're really in a bad situation, because you most of the time don't want to make your opponent not to receive any damage, but like unless you're like in a really bad spot that your opponent kind of like negates all of your stuff, you don't really want to use this guy. Gaga Cowboy is actually your one of your preferred options, because Gaga Cowboy is burned for additional 800 points of damage, which can get you to the OTK. That's that. And then for links, I run 1 Link Arive because it's V-Gem, just for fun. Again, it's not really that important. Underclock is actually pretty important. Akashic is fine. I just don't really have anything else. Cerberus, Phoenix, Unicorn, because I'm proxying Unicorn, and I feel like the Nightmares is actually pretty good. Decon Talker, because you can make this a 3300 beat stick with an additional big, kind of enough Duja and a Crimson Lord if you are lucky, so it's another option. And then an Ingirsu if you need to remove something, again. And then 1 copy of Borlo Dragon if you want to steal a monster and still get a 3000 attacking monster, which is also pretty good. So that pretty much does it for the extra deck. Really not a whole lot of things to say about the extra deck. I think like the most important part is the main deck. So yes, that pretty much does it for the deck profile. So hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We're really getting big, like, very fast. I know that it's like 3 subscribers here and there, but like there are days that like I'm receiving 5 subscribers out of nowhere, which I'm really happy. If you guys can spread the word so we can get to 1,000 faster. Now, of course, like it sounds like I'm trying to marketing myself or something like that, but like I really want to get to 1,000 faster, because then I could have the ability to maybe like, of course, we'll see in the views, and I have the 4,000 hours and all that stuff, and then I can like pretty much start getting like, you know, money from YouTube from my videos. And then kind of like have budget for additional decks or stuff and equipments, and kind of like have a little bit more of an easy time to make videos. So if you have any friends that you want to suggest them this channel, I would thank you guys so much. I will try actually in the near future, I'm hoping, actually starting things with YGO Pro and replays and deck profiles that I want on the YGO Pro, of course. Because I have now a computer. So we'll see how that goes. But for the time being, thank you guys again. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, guys. Stay safe, and see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Thank you guys again.